Good morning. Today we're going to practice taking snow water equivalent, or SWE measurements. Measuring snow water equivalent is going through and finding how much water is locked up into the snow. In the arid west, the majority of the fresh water comes from snowmelt. So it's important to measure how much water we actually have in reserve from the winter snowfall. So today we're going to start by looking at the snow patch here. We're going to go through and divide it up into sub areas. And throughout these sub-areas, we're going to take a snow water equivalent measurement. With this snow water equivalent measurement, we're going to be able to go through and find out how much water is held in this patch of snow. So in order to take our measurements of snow water equivalent, we're going to need to use a snow corer. A snow corer is basically a device that's made out of aluminum, and an aluminum tube that you can stick down into the snow that first measures the depth of the snow, and then you pull the core of snow out and weigh the snow core, and when you weigh the snow core, you can actually find out how much water is inside of that snow. So, in order to take our first measurement, we're going to need to hook up the snow corer. But in order to put the snow corer together, it's very important to make sure that you're wearing gloves, because the heat from your hands can actually heat up the tube, which then makes your job a lot harder when you're actually going through and taking measurements. So the first piece that we're going to take is the bottom of the snow corer. This is the very first piece that goes in the ground. This piece has the cutter right here that actually cuts through the snow and ice and gets all the way down to the bottom. So the second piece, which is right here, we're going to thread the two ends together. Now when you're tightening these, it's very important to only get it hand tight. Only a quarter turn past the snug level. You do not want these to be too tight, because then they'll get stuck together, especially when they're cold. So now that we have the two sections hooked together, I'm going to take the snow core pounder, which is this guy right here, and wrap it around. Wrap it around and tighten it on. Now I'm ready to go take my first measurements. So in order to take our first measurement, we need to set up our scale. So in order to set up our scale, we got to take this long rod, shove it in the ground, so that once we get our snow core, we can balance it on here so we can actually find our weight. So with it shoved in the ground, you can now hook up the scale . Scale's now hooked up and ready to go. As you can see, right here is where we actually lay the snow core once we have our core. Now it's time to go take our first core. Okay, so now that we have the snow core, first thing we need to do is visually inspect the inside to make sure it's nice and clear. If it's not, kind of knock it out to get all the garbage out. Alright, we're nice and clear. We can go take our first measurement now. Okay, so now in order to take our first measurement, I'm going to take the snow core and shove it in the ground. Once it's in the ground all the way, I'm going to read the core where the depth is 10 centimeters. And then, once I read the core, make a good turn to break the bottom of the snow loose. Pull the core out. One of the first things I have to do is check the bottom. With all that mud and dirt in the bottom, I'm going to have to knock it out. So, One of the easiest ways to knock it out is with something cold or something not warm. A pin will work, but it's better to use something like a knife or a can opener, something that's also metal. It helps keep the snow core cold. Now, one important thing about snow coring is to try to get as much of the core up out of the ground as possible. Now, it's ideal to get about 90% of the core up out of the ground. Here, when I actually take a reading of the snow that I got out as I pulled it out of the ground, I only pulled up about 8 centimeters. That could mean two things. That could mean I got almost 2 centimeters of dirt, or it could mean that it could mean two things. It could mean I got 2 centimeters or dirt, or it could mean that I didn't pull up all the snow. Looking down in the hole, looks like I pulled all the snow up, so I'd say I probably got 2 centimeters of dirt.
You can look at both cameras, just kind of
Okay.
even it out.